Hello everybody, let's exit to port. It is currently, at the time of recording, 12:49 Central European Summertime on the 24th of June 2025. Here in northern Norway, the birds are chirping, the lawnmower is getting stuck, and the house is slowly heating up in such a way that even me, sitting up here, had to think, oh, it's nice and warm in my house as I got out of the bedroom. And that was a bit weird because there's no heating on in the house today at all. So there we are. Someone else who has no heating on in his room and house, Mr. Grumbles the dwarf.
Hello. Everything here is dying of heat.
Everything.
The fields all look burned to a crisp. The birds aren't chirping, they're just hiding in the shadows.
Shai is looking for
and I think
prey.
the squirrels have migrated north. Because I haven't seen one for like 2 years.
Yeah. It's the sign of the times, and Ragnarok is coming. No, wait. We are, of course, going to continue this on into the eternal next life too, so don't worry about that, dear listeners. I don't know where this is going. I have no idea where this is going. We are titling this Hot Pod Summer for a reason. We know it's going to be a hot one, and first and foremost, before we get started, if you're in any of these areas that will be getting severe heat, please make sure to hydrate. Please make sure to take care of yourself as best as you can and those around you. If you know that you have elderly neighbors or anything like that, please check in on them too. Yeah. Be as kind to your others as you are to others, or something along those lines. It's a bit different from what I normally say, but it's important. It's sadly very easy to forget these days that heat affects us all differently, and when you get older, it might be harder to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that. Welcome to the podcast. That's a fun start.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, patrons, first and foremost, to all of you. We actually looked a bit at the numbers, and if Buzzsprout, where we host our podcast, would allow us to pay for a full year, we are getting very close to being able to pay for a full year in one go.
Nice.
So that's kind of cool. For legal reasons. And what's it called? To be open and for
transparency.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thesaurus the dwarf, or Grumbles the thesaurus. For transparency, we pay $12 a month for our hosting. We might look into a different place that might allow us to pay for a full year at a time because it's easier. We know that it's then paid. It's not going to be hit by a month of bills that might be an issue or such. So, but we'll let you know if anything changes there. But for now, patreon.com/exit to port, $2 a month or equivalent to pledge. That is the only tier we have. And what do we promise there? We promise you to get your episode as quickly as possible, which likely means on the same day of recording as of right now. But normally we try to get it out a week early to our patrons. And you are guaranteed to get your comment or question in if you send us a message on there. Or post it on our Discord or on YouTube. We will try to catch up on those, and yeah. So to Maringana, FionnMacCorvus, MrRoboto, Tiltedhead. Sorry, he's just tilted these days. Sorry, just tilted, not Tiltedhead anymore. And LimaZuluTango, of course.
What happened to his head? Did it fall off?
It's just he's Danish. They don't have any heads anymore. So I don't.
Okay.
I have no idea where this is a weird start.
It is. It's a hot take.
Off to a great start. There you go. Speaking of off to a great start, before we jump into our recently played games, I just want to say I've been having so much fun in World of Warships lately, just playing requests from viewers. Just a bit of shameless self-promotion. Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Well, not Tuesdays, but Monday and Wednesday, I try to do as many requests as possible, and it's been so much fun getting back into that. And just playing ships that I don't play often, and trying to learn them one at a time, and it's just, yeah. I've been having a lot of fun doing that, so.
Cool.
And I think, honestly, like, if you were to jump into World of Warships more, you'd probably enjoy that way of doing things, too. Instead of just going for the crowd favorites and playing the same ships over and over. I know it's done my head good, so I have a feeling you'd respond similarly.
What I like is some of the alternate modes, like the asymmetrical, but I can't remember the name of it now, but the one where you respawn.
Unbreakable line. Yep.
Yeah.
That's a lot of fun. It is. Thank you, Wargaming, for giving us those. They were. They are cool, because I do think they're going to be staying somewhat in rotation now, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, they went out for a bit and then they came back, both of them now. Yeah.
So that's good. We like those. We like those. Speaking of other things we like, RoadCraft. Last time when we recorded, we had not yet played, or not played much, or we were just about to play. I can't quite remember. But now we have played, and we've played a lot. And I can say, without a shadow of a doubt, this is the sort of game that I will play offline too. And I have. And it's been so good. Just taking on one tiny task at a time, just chilling out, making roads, going exploring, doing things and at my own pace. I really didn't think it would lend itself as well to single player as it did, but it does. So most of my experience, of course, playing it multiplayer together with you guys. Lima, Doc has been there, Viper's been there a couple of times, Stats. Actually, Doc's not been there, but he's been hanging out in chat with us, and he has played it, so he knows. And whereas that has been majorly fun, and I really enjoyed the conversations, because it's an easy game to have a conversation in.
Yep.
I've really enjoyed the company where someone goes, "Oh no, my truck is taking a nap," and then, part of the fun is then bringing the crew in and let's see if we can fix this. But when playing it solo, I'm just kind of going, okay, well, I fell over. Well, let's just reset and then redo this. Or bring in a crane or something. Just completely leisurely. And it's been so good. Yep. What do you think we have?
So I've been really blown away by it. I was super looking forward to it, having had a go in the demo, and the co-op's just been such fantastic fun for the reasons that you've cited, and I would say that so far, and we'll see. Obviously, we're halfway through the year, but for me, it's up there as game of the year in brackets relaxation category. Because it's so relaxing. Even the little moments of panic where you mess things up or you get pushed off a castle bridge and that kind of thing. Hashtag blames bloke. And that's not fair. I'm only joking. But yeah, it's a game that whenever I fire that up, I immediately start relaxing. Like the chill, very fitting soundtrack to it. The and just the play style and everything just like taking ages to like get stuff done and going off on side quests or whatever. Like, but taking ages in the sense of like it's really rewarding, and you see like 5 hours later, oh yeah, look, we made this road over here and this bridge, and we got this stuff delivered and helped clear up this disaster zone kind of thing. It's and I've been getting so much fun out of all the different maps, and even when you group up with people, and this is one of the key elements of it that's worked really well, is the co-op. Yes, you can get through things obviously much quicker, but overall not so quick that you're like, oh, an hour later you've done that map and you're on to the next one. It's still many hours like per map, because the way the quests are laid out, and it's just a slow, grindy, but in a really positive, engaging way. And then, as you said, you can have those conversations, you can stop and chill. And I haven't done a lot of solo, but I've done a little bit when people haven't been ready yet, or whatever, had to go. And even then, when I'm on my own, it's just really engaging, and you've got time to like look at chat and read and keep up with everything that's going on. So as a content creator, it's been super fun. So I think it's going to be up there for one of my game of the year in terms of just how relaxed I feel when I play it.
Yeah. Like the really nice thing is like the variety of vehicles it allows for too.
Mm-hmm.
Like not every map is just build a road here with sand, flatten, asphalt, and then flatten.
Mm-hmm.
Not every map is that, but there's a lot of it, which is fine because name of the game, RoadCraft. But yeah, no, it's like you have the opportunity of doing lumberjack style stuff. You have the opportunity of doing just going on a wild adventure of hey, I want to build a road over this way that might help us at some point. Like you don't have to follow the the game's quests. Quests. Is it quests? Missions? It's a quest.
Mission objectives and the side quests, the side objectives. Yeah, agreed. And that flexibility is great, because there's a few things where you're like, okay, you have to do A, B, C. Yeah. Fine, that makes sense. But then you can go different directions. You can get things done in different ways a lot of the time. There's the whole cable laying for the power stuff. And it's also like the devs have been engaged and looking at feedback and fixing things and improving, and it gets more and more flexible the further and further you get into the maps. You get, it's got like the guide rails on early on, the stabilizers, if you will, and then it slowly starts taking those off bit by bit, and that feels quite good as well. So it's almost or it makes me feel very, very excited for like what the updates, hopefully free updates, maybe some DLC, a mix and match as well. But I look forward to seeing like what additional maps and content they might bring along. I don't know what their overall roadmap is. I vaguely remember that they were working on one. I don't know if they published it yet, but it'll be very interesting to see where they go with that game.
Yeah, and just knowing that there's also a wide possibility of different vehicles they could bring in into the future, also very nice, and different biomes. Okay, here's my only issue. Why does it have to rain so much wherever we go?
That was unfortunately, I think, an accidental byproduct of a fix that they tried to bring in. They were like, let's make it rain less often. And what happened was, I think it started raining less often, but the duration of the rain was extended signitigantly, or vice versa. But either way, it just, bring an umbrella.
Like I get it. It's supposed to make things be a bit more slippery and muddy, but please allow me to set it in my settings to either turn off rain completely or have it be tied to the biome. Because I'll be honest, being in what looks like northern Africa and then getting torrential rain every 15 minutes, a bit weird.
Yeah.
But hey, climate change's not real, so, you know, that's fine. I'm not going to get started on that. I'm sorry.
No, let's not go down that route. That's a rogue we can craft.
Hey.
But yeah, it's been fantastic. I've currently got 82.7 hours in RoadCraft. So that's pretty impressive in about a month and a half, considering that there was like the one or the other major distraction.
There's been a couple, and I'm up to 61.2 hours. And that was with even being away for a full week and not being able to play properly. So yeah, no, this is nice, and the scenery is fabulous looking. Just don't buy the Invictus. Let's see if we can bait a comment out of Slickson or something. I don't know. We'll see. No. I'm looking forward to seeing more where this is going, simply put. So So there's that. But we spoke of sand, and there's something else on our horizon that is very sandy, and that is, of course, Clair Obscur. No, Dune Awakening.
Yeah,
I almost had you there for a second.
Almost, yeah. I'd like to thank LimaZuluTango for spilling so much sand in RoadCraft that Dune Arrakis occurred. He triggered it. It's the alternate universe. Dune Awakening from Funcom has just been incredible for me. Just an immensely satisfying and immersive experience. I'm currently sitting at 126.9 hours in that game since the advanced access that they provided on June 5th. So it's June 24th. So that's not bad going. 126.9 hours.
So I just want to point out, Funcom, they are the same people that gave us Age of Conan, Conan Exiles, and some of the other Dune titles, as far as I know. And one thing that I've kept seeing in a lot of TikToks and Instagram posts about it, I don't play the game, but I can tell that Funcom have put a lot of thought into this. They've put a lot of work into this. Because there's a lot of comments being like, oh, they've just reskinned Age of Conan. Like, Conan Exile, sorry. Like, no. Look at how the tiles work together, how they block out light, how they fit, how, like, everything of that. Like, they've taken a lot of their knowledge from that, but to a next step. There is so much insanely impressive back end work going on in Conan that they've taken to a completely new step in June. And for all the jank that Conan Exiles has, like, for people that don't understand just how impressive it is to put something like that together, June, on top of that, with everything going on, with this being, I mean, I think we can call it an MMO, but it's not really an MMO at the same time.
Yeah, I call it an MMS, massively multiplayer sandbox.
Like, but it's not really a sandbox either. But it's, well, I guess it kind of is a sandbox. But yeah, like, I think it was Cole that called it a survival RPG, because it has survival elements too. But like, just seeing the massive scale of it, it is a massive title. Like, the M in MMO stands for massive, after all. So, and I am impressed by it. And so all of these comments kind of ragging on it is just, no. get your head out of the sand, dude. This is so massively impressive. So talk us through it. Because you played the closed beta, was it?
I played closed beta and the open beta weekend.
Right.
And that both had their own, distinct elements to them. Of course, the closed beta was a bit closer to the finished product that came out, although masses of things changed and improved.
Can you talk anything about what went on in the closed beta as opposed to, or are you still covered by NDA?
No, they took the NDA off in terms of, I can firstly say that it happened and that I was in it. That was originally covered as the NDA. You weren't even allowed to acknowledge that it existed. Secondly, we're not allowed to talk about like very specific things like, oh, in the beta, blah, 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 blah. Like, this is how all this maths worked, or this is how this mechanic worked, or whatever. I don't know if they'll ease that with more time passing, possibly. But especially if you had things where you were talking with Funcom devs about, look, there's this and this, and I'm seeing this bug, or I'm seeing this behavior, that kind of stuff. That's also, or the last time I read the announcements about the NDA, that was still covered, which is about 2 or 3 weeks ago. So maybe things changed in the meantime. But I can talk about like my general impressions and where we're at. Dune is a really funny one for me because I was kind of like, oh, that's interesting. It piqued my interest when I kind of first started hearing about it later in last year. And then I was kind of like very cold on it at the beginning of this year, like January, February or so. I was like, eh. And then somebody reached out to me from the community saying, hey, look, if you are interested in this, I'm involved in some things and there might be a way into the beta. So I had a look at it and I was like, I don't know, I've got so many projects going, I don't know if I really have time, and I'm very wary of overcommitting to things. And then I watched one of the sort of dev blogs and or streams and saw a couple of the trailers, and I was like, this, because the whole MMO tag at first had really thrown me off because I don't really like MMOs. It's not my thing. So I'll leave it alone. And then I kind of watched a couple of things, and it's just clicked in my brain of like, this isn't really an MMO, not in that way. I can play this kind of the way I would play Conan or Ark or any of those kind of games where I'd want to RP and immerse myself in the world. I reckon I can play that game, this game in that way. That was my imagination of it. So I signed up for the closed beta and thankfully got in. Then they had the open beta weekend. Not long after I'd got in, and I'd barely had, because of the other projects, I'd hardly had any time to really get in and play it. But as soon as I entered the world, everything just clicked and fell into place and was like, oh my God, this is the most immersive experience I've had in almost any game. Like Red Dead Redemption 2 is probably one of the few that might beat it. It's that. And the thing is as well, like, and I'm glad you're saying that you've enjoyed like watching it and getting the vibe of it. It is one of those ones, unless you go into that world, and it doesn't grab everybody, of course, but once you enter into that world and you start going through and you have your first couple of experiences of the sound design and the visuals and that feeling that Jeff's going to come and eat you and all the rest of it.
Jeff is
being
the
sandworm,
for those who don't know. Editor's notes.
It is. It just, for me anyway, like, because I'm looking for that cinematic immersive experience. I'm looking to be in that story, in that world as my character. It's got buckets and buckets of that. What you see on a screen doesn't bring across the feeling you have when you're in that world. It is very, very close to the immersion that you can get in, like I said, in Red Dead Redemption 2. And, whatever your most immersive gaming experience is, think along those lines. This game is just incredible in that regard. And so I started to get that through the closed, and then the open beta weekend was great because we were actually able to obviously talk about that and stream it and share the experience with people. And I just was like, oh no, I think I'm addicted. I don't think I'll be coming out of this game for quite a long time, but let's see how far it goes. And in a way, I didn't spend too much time in it because I was quite careful, because I was like, I don't want to go too far. I never got to like a buggy even. I didn't go towards the Thopters and things like that because I was like, let's save that until it's fully out there and really see. And I also had in the back of my mind, I was a bit worried with the ornithopters in particular, because I was like, what's flying around in a world like this going to be? Is it going to end up being kind of janky? Is it going to be all like weird movements? And like I couldn't really picture it, and I didn't have a feel for it. Well, since the launch and we got the advanced access on the 5th of June, and we had a few like daily hot fixes and things like that, where they were like learning as they went along and seeing because you can't really see the reality until you give it to the public and say, right, have a go.
Yeah.
And see if you can break it and whatever, right? And people will be people. And through that, and then through the full launch, and now they announced on Steam, I think today or yesterday, that they have like over 1 million people into the game already in like this first month. And their peak numbers are like 150, 160k, probably even higher than that now. And that was even during the advanced access as well. It's just amazing how immersive this game is, like all the way through, like each region, each zone that you go into, each progression level in the game, going from like one vehicle to the next and so forth. When you get the Thopter, my gut feeling was like, oh, this could be a bit of a risk, because maybe this spoils it and makes it like easy mode, because now I can just get everywhere and I don't have to worry about the worm and all that kind of thing. But what happens is you get in the Thopter, you get about an hour of like, oh, this is easy mode. I can go and fly over there and get this resource I need. And then you start realizing how big this game is.
Yeah. Like
not just the main Haga Basin area, but then you've got the overland areas and all the other things you can fly and do. And it's suddenly, and then, and that's before you get to the deep desert, and you're like, wow, this game is immense. And like, even though you've got a Thopter, it's like, oh, that's good. But now I can spend an hour traveling over here and getting some resources rather than like 3 hours. It's like, it's not making things into like a 5-minute journey.
Yeah.
And just again, the sound design, the sound of the Thopters, the movement of them and everything. And especially you go into like the vulture, like the gliding mode. It's incredible. I even found myself watching some nature documentaries about vultures and how they fly, and thermals and their wings and how their wings work, because I was just fascinated by like this, everything that's going on. And the game just it's a cinematic experience. You're just in that world, and it's incredible. When the spice things blow and like. And that's when I'm glad I don't have a headset on too loud, because I'd lose my ears maybe. But it's like, and not because of bad quality, but just because it's, it's immense. But everything gives you, like, the game draws you in, and then it shakes you up every once in a while, but in a way of like, it doesn't shake you in a way of like, oh, you're in a video game. It shakes you in a way of like, wow, there's actual real danger, or something's just gone off, or something's happened in the world. What is it? And you immediately want to go and have a look and be involved in whatever the next story is, just absolutely incredible. And 98% of the game, in air quotes, is like PvE content. And then there's been a little bit of a kerfuffle in recent days, because the sort of, let's call it in air quotes, the end game, and the region called the Deep Desert, which is enormous, by the way. It's like 81 zones patched together with server meshing. It's so big. Like, you fly for like 10, 15 minutes or something to get like from one end to the other or whatever. It's just crazy. And that's before you even stop and get into activities and do all the things that are out there, right? It looks and feels and sounds incredible. You can almost taste the spice on the air kind of thing when you're in there. And but people got into a bit of kind of ranting and being a bit down on the game, because there is this, as Cole puts it, quite a harsh switch suddenly from 98% PvE content to like now everywhere is PvP.
Right.
In this end zone. It's not strictly speaking everywhere, but the bits that are important, the bits that matter for gathering the resources and to get the very, very high end, top end gear. That's all true, but I'm going to say this. Even a little bit with Cole, not that I'm trying to get into a fight with him at all, because I've got total respect. These guys are massive inspiration to me. But even with Cole, some of the points that people were emphasizing and ignoring other parts of the end game was going a little bit down the direction of like, well, let's sensationalize this one kind of problem area and ignore all the other things. Of course, again, full transparency, I'm absolutely smitten with this game. So of course I'm going to be like kind of defending it, not defending Funcom per se, but just the game itself is fantastic. And I see this as the 1.0 release. And then, well, what comes with 1.1, 1.5, 2.0, and all this kind of thing could be just the most epic game of all time. It is what it looks like to me anyway. Feels like to me. So I was a bit kind of irritated that even though some of the points were very rational and kind of well presented, they were also, whether deliberately or not, kind of ignoring some of the elements of that were kind of counterpoints or balancing elements to it. But without dragging like through all of that and spending half an hour on this one topic, because it's hard for me to not ramble on about it because it's so great. There was a massive announcement yesterday by the creative director, Joel, from Funcom, big public website post, really well thought out with some good humor in there, some really clear cut points and sort of takeaways. Let's say the TLDR of it is that they're going to change. They didn't say exactly when, but just like soon TM. So I imagine it'll be quite soon.
Don't make me buy June, Grumbles. I don't have time for this.
I'm gonna make you buy June. You're gonna hate me. You're gonna make me. I'll see if I can get you a key. I'll try. They're going to change the deep desert to include some of the zones being PVE, so that okay, so let me explain more clearly. The deep desert is kind of in two sections. There's a small section at the southern border where you enter in that is PVE. You can build houses, you can process all your spice, fly your vehicles around, go on your bikes and all the rest of it, and you're just in PVE. So you're safe. You can obviously get into PvE kind of trouble in that, but generally speaking, things are okay. And I'm not going to talk about people trying to like build bases around each other, people things that PvP toxics do. Not going to worry about that. I'm not calling all PvP as toxic. I'm saying that there is a toxic subset.
There are some elements that will always be part of that, and sadly, but
some people get a kick out of like ruining other people's fun, whatever.
Grief.
But ignoring that. And then there is the vast majority of the deep desert. And this is why people think of the deep desert all as the same thing. There's the vast majority of the deep desert that is all PvP enabled currently. And that was the original design. And the game design goal was that people would team up into guilds. The guilds would team up together into a faction, either Atreides or Harkonnen. There'll be a third one later on, but that's all under wraps still. And this would turn into a kind of political and gaming dynamics where you've got both PvE and PvP content in this massive area, and it's truly massive. Imagine you want to go in PvP, shoot someone, and you've got to spend 15 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour and a half looking for them first just to find them, just to even, because it's that big. You could be flying, if you're at one end of that map and they're at the other, and you're flying here, then everywhere randomly, you've got to even scout and find them first, let alone engage them, and then they can run away. Anyway, the long and the short of it was, PvP stuff happens and people decide, well, I don't want this. I've just played a game for 98% of this game is PvE. And now to get the very top end stuff and processing and vehicles and all that, I have to go into this PvP zone. So people were starting to bellyache about it, right? Ignoring, in my opinion, that you've got an auction house you can trade on called the Exchange. You've got the possibility to reach out to other players and say, hey, if I bring you such and such, would you give me these pieces for this copter I need to make and that kind of thing? So you could trade with people, and you can do all of the endgame content or most of the endgame content, not all, without even going into the deep desert if you want to, and certainly into the PvP zone. But there are some things you would never be able to attain, certain resources and that. So what they've announced yesterday as part of this big, and it's quite detailed, but I think the biggest part of it is, they're going to take some of that PvP zone in the deep desert and they're going to make a chunk of it. I don't know whether they said specific numbers. I don't think so. But like, say they take 1/3 as an example, randomly. They're going to make that the PvE area. And then what they're going to do is you're going to have access to all the resources so that you'd be able to make the top end gear, do all your big, harvesting of spice and all this kind of things, with the exception that I think it will be either the very rarest resources that you don't really need, but they're nice to have, like maybe get the top end PvP gun and this kind of thing. Those things will still be in PvP areas. So most of the deep desert, or like 2/3 at least, will still be PvP. 1/3 or maybe a bit less, I don't know the exact numbers yet, will be, it could be a quarter or whatever, will be PvE. And in the PvP zones, the incentives will be, that's where the really big bits of spice are. That's where the really big dungeons are. That's where you'll get the higher volume and the most of the high end stuff will be in that PvP zone. So you've still got that big risk gameplay to go, because that was their original design goal. However, you'll soon, TM, be able to play exclusively PvE all the way through the game, stick to those PvE zones in the deep desert, and you'll be able to obtain the resources. It'll be very grindy. It won't be oriented for solo players, because it's the whole design of that area is like, well, if you're working with 5 people, you're way better off than if you're working with on your own or whatever. But again, you can trade, you can just grind it out if you want to, spend the time however you want to do it. But that's, to me, super exciting. So it basically means that there won't be any game content that's locked behind PvP.
Good. So here's my kind of look at things.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of games that I've been playing have been shoehorning in PvP without building the game around it.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you have those games do that, PvP feels forced and restrictive.
Mm-hmm.
So the thought that crossed my mind when I heard that so much of the end game was going to be tied to PvP zones was, of course, okay, now I'm being shoehorned into it. The game might still work for PvP, but I'm being shoehorned into PvP content, where yes, I might still have access to things, but the desert itself is off limits in ways, like if that makes sense. Like, yes, parts of it is there, you can utilize it without doing PvP, but such a big part of it is just off limits, and that, I think that's what most people have been like, but why? I also want to be able to go there and see this.
Yes.
So but that's where I've been like, so the game is not for me, because I want to see it without necessarily going PvP.
Yep.
So
I 100% agree.
This is where they are changing things and allowing that part. I think this is a great move.
Yep.
Because
I do too.
They're not completely changing the entire thing. They're not removing from the PvP in a way that the PvP rewards are still there. And I think that's something that a lot of people look at. Like, for instance, I think back to when I played World of Warcraft. A lot of the really good gear for PvP was locked behind PvP, naturally. And all of the gear that was good for PvE was locked behind PvE, naturally. But there have been games out there that have completely missed the mark and hidden good stuff for PvE behind PvP.
Yep.
And I think that's where a lot of people were seeing Dune kind of settle, weirdly enough. And so this way that they're changing things, this sounds like they are keeping up with the community. They are listening to good input without necessarily going too far in either direction. Yep. I'm impressed.
Yeah. Can I read a couple of quotes from the article?
Yeah.
Like, it's a long article, so I'm not going to go through all of it. But there's a couple of like big highlighted takeaways. I've put a link to it for us for later, so we'll include that in the description. But here Joel says, our goal is not to force PvE players to interact with a PvP system that they may have no interest in. The next big quote, some areas of the deep desert will now be flagged as partial warfare, brackets PvE, whilst the deepest parts of the deep desert will remain as they currently are, high reward, high risk areas. he goes on to talk about that there are some issues with PvP and itself, and they're making some adjustments and changes there. Yeah, exactly. So, and then the rest of the article, I really recommend reading the whole thing. He also threw in some good humor. There's a quote here that you will love. Where is it? Let me see if I can find it quickly. Okay, so 2 quotes here. He says, "No endgame plan survives first contact with the players." Mark Twain, probably.
I mean, it's not
right?
wrong.
Yeah, but this one's even better. You'll love this one, I think. But as Stephen King says, wish in one hand, shit in the other. See which one fills up first. And then Joel says that his personal account is, one of my hands is overflying right now, and sadly not with wishes. Right? Tell me that's a guy that gets it, right? So there you go.
Kudos. Oh, well played. No, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good. I like that. No, they have, like, they are showing their experience on the market with this. They are showing their experience with the titles they've been working with, and I like, it makes me happy to see this and to hear this.
Yeah,
because, like, when you have a game that has end game that is going to be where the major focus is going to be for a long time, you need to be able to have a lot of your players there. Yeah, and I think it brings me back to think about Warhammer Fantasy Online, which was a great game, but it was fully built around PvP. So even in your PvE content, it was geared and aimed towards making you ready for PvP. And they did a really good job at that, because it was meant to be around that. And I think if Dune had been one of those games that was built around it, they couldn't have had this massive world in this same way. So, I keep, it's so hard not to keep going back to World of Warcraft, because World of Warcraft did these sorts of servers in such a good way too, where they had full PvP servers that once you were out about in the zones, you were PvP enabled. And that was part of the danger of it, right? But they also had RP PvP realms, they had RP realms, they had PvE realms, and so on. And I think a lot of people will hold them to this standard, because that just kind of worked and set a very big standard in how, like, if you were in the open world and you did get ganked and jumped, you could simply respawn a different place. And that is something Dune does, outside of bugs, of course, but I don't think anyone's had that bug outside of that one thing in the open beta, was it? Doesn't matter. But yeah, you have the option of going somewhere else, and they have the ear to the ground to listen to the feedback from the community that like in those cases where there is griefing going on or where issues arise, they will fix it. So yeah, no, it's interesting to see them make this move, and I'm kudos to Funcom for this. I know Funcom's one of those companies that a lot of people will deliberately just rag on because it's Funcom, and I'm like, dude, if you don't like their games, don't play their games. That's how simple it is. Like, and that goes for anything, not just Funcom. I want to point that out. So, but they are really showing their experience with community building and keeping a game alive. So it's going to be really interesting to see where they go from this, because this is kind of just the first iteration of Endgame, right?
Yeah, so this is, I mean, this is why I wasn't personally as negative and down. Again, with the transparency of being very biased towards how much I'm enjoying this, and I think this is possibly already, but very, very much soon, depending on what the next updates and that bring, my favorite game of all time, just all around like best game I've ever played kind of thing. But I wasn't so negative because I saw lots of other opportunities and ways. And I didn't. The thing is, people are very hyper focused on, in air quotes, end game, right? Thinking that means the top tier of building parts, that means the top tier of resources, that means the top tier of vehicles, right? Possibly, yeah, definitely from a pure mechanical zeros and ones point of view, sure. But the PvE content doesn't demand that you have any of that stuff, realistically. Or rather, even the stuff that you want to get to in that tier, you can get to without PvPing. It'll just take you a really, really long time comparatively, right? But you can get there. The key thing I think that a lot of people are missing, or maybe it's because I don't have like a more, I'm trying to phrase it the right way. I don't mean any judgment in this at all. There's no right or wrong, but I'm not a typical gamer. I'm like I don't have to have the latest and greatest and the best and the top weapon and all that kind of stuff, right? So in my mindset and my playing, I'm like, oh, I wish I could get to these things, but you know what? If I don't get the next version of that Thopter, that's okay. The one I've got is flipping amazing. Now let me go and have fun in it, So I think people got over focused on the word endgame and the abbreviation like PvP, and then just they saw that and they were like seeing red at that or whatever for various reasons. Also because all the stories will be out there and people creating content around like, oh look, we did this naughty thing to these other people and ruined their day kind of thing, So it's and then the thing just grows legs and goes off like that. But again, ultimately, if they're going to change it, it makes the game even better. It makes it for, as you said, the majority of the player base most likely are doing, because most of the game is PvE. I think also, as you said, it's 1.0 of the game, and their plan, they have a 10-year plan, and already they've shown a little bit of what they can do with the overland map where you can travel to the deep desert. That's one of, I think, 4 regions. One of them's like a PvE mission thing that you do. But there are, like, let's say 3 proper regions on that overland map, plus your home base area, so 4, plus a mission, 5. And that whole technology allows them to literally build other, like, and in the case of the deep desert, huge, like 5 times bigger or whatever the math says, right? Areas, and just plug them into the game and say, ta-da, there's a whole new area. And they'd already previously stated that they were working on big PvE content that was going to be plugged into that overland, and you'll be able to go there and do PvE stuff on those kind of massive scales. So some of it is like, a little bit cart before the horse. If we just waited a couple of months, then we probably would have seen a bucket load of PvE content coming in, being plugged into that map. But because right now, and you can, I can see the player base point of view as well. Right now, the way it is, here's, as you would describe, here's that fantastic end zone with all the beautiful cinematics and sounds and spices and grandfather worms and stuff that I want to see. But I'm not going to go out there just to lose my copter in 5 minutes because some tryhards out there waiting for me. So it's I think ultimately I think it just shows, and if when you get a chance to read the whole message, you'll see how open and rational the communication is, with good humor as well. It's they're listening, they're working on it, and they're immediately looking at, okay, we get it, we've heard you, let's do something about this together. And I think that's fantastic.
So I think, like, if they had released a similar sort of area that was purely PvE to the deep desert, or maybe have Deep Desert 2 PvE Boogaloo, or whatever you want to call it, alongside of what they already had. I don't think anyone people would probably been like, okay, this is fine. But I think it is because of the phrasing and the natural kind of approach of gamers, because like you say, you're not the typical gamer, but a lot of gamers will see, what can I gain from endgame, what can I obtain, where is my winnings in this, there's a lot of that going on in the classical gamer mind, and I think that's what tripped up a lot of people. But I am I am genuinely excited for what's going on, and I like I have no horse in this race at all. I want to point out there's so far been nothing. Well, I mean, I say nothing. There's not been a massive draw for me towards the game. But with what they're talking about and what they are saying, it's starting to feel like, okay, maybe this could be a long-term game for me. Because I enjoy MMOs. I enjoy survivals to some part. I enjoy the freedom of going on a farming run. Just out there doing my routes, collecting these things, going back and forth to my base, and just doing my aluminium runs, or in World of Warcraft it was thorium runs, or like all of these materials that are needed for later use, and just processing them and dividing them out to people, or selling them, or so on. I loved doing that. But I also loved doing the end game part, where like being part of the raids, being in there. And when that part of the carrot was suddenly a bit of a honey trap, it felt like, and I just decided, no, this is not for me. But now it's starting to seem like, okay, it might be for me.
Yeah, we just have to obviously wait, give them a moment to breathe and see what they deliver. But if they come through on literally just what they've stated, and they have on everything else they've stated and done so far, as I said, for me, it's like, it sounds over the top, but I'm not just saying game of the year. This might just be my favorite game that's ever been made.
So that's the thing about delivering such a big game too. Like you are, it's a live service. I hate that term, but it is a live service because it's supposed to have a long-term life cycle. This is not just something that you're done with in 10 hours, 40 hours, 50 hours, 80 hours, whatever. That's not the purpose of this sort of game. So I think a lot of people will need to curb their enthusiasm when it comes to some of these things. And to kind of compare it to another recent MMO, New World. New World didn't have endgame in a good way. And we can see where that has gotten them today. Like, if they had even just a tiny bit more that allowed for a good kind of game rotation and utilization over time, then I think New World would definitely be up here and still be played by me and others. It's still played by a lot of people. That's not what I'm saying, but it didn't have that hold value. Dune, with its release now, it has hold value already. And we are less than a month in. This is interesting for me. This is very interesting for me. And that's coming from someone who isn't really a Dune fan. Like, I don't have anything against Dune, but it's not me going, oh my god, Dune.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Give me this sort of game in the Star Wars or Stargate universe. Oh my, Stargate.
Well, I'm not like a big Dune fan.
Can we get on a Stargate game, please?
I want Conan 2 first. I want Conan 2 using this tech.
Screw Conan. Swords. Actually, no, swords are kind of cool. But no, oh man. Yeah, the large scale universes we could get out of this from the technology they're using now.
Yep, absolutely. God. Well, I mean, so here's the thing. So last thing I'll say on it. I'm not a big like Dune nerd either. Like I haven't read the books. I don't know all the lore. I just know the more recent films 1 and 2, which were okay for me. Like a lot of people go on and on about how good they were, but they were okay for me. But I didn't get a big cinematic presentation of it, so maybe I don't get it. But the 84 film, for me, I love that one because the characters are like off the wall crazy, and there's just lots of stuff going on in that. And that was like my link to Dune, and the kind of the music, the soundtrack. And when I play this game, when like going through the betas and everything, I've said this to people on stream. For me, this is like I love Star Wars, like original Star Wars, and even the prequels. Sorry, I got to make sure I can say the right thing. I'm not a fan of all the more recent stuff, but I love the idea of immersing myself into the Star Wars kind of universe. And what I said to people is, playing Dune for me, if I was talking to Cringer about it, it's like being in a Star Wars universe because although you're on the planet Arrakis and there's the spaceships in the background, you're aware that you're in the bigger universe out there, and it's got a I'm on Tatooine kind of feel about it, and so for me it was almost like I was in a Star Wars universe because it was something I was a bit more familiar with than Dune. But of course now I'm getting more and more familiar with Dune and Dune lore and stuff, so yeah.
No, it's cool. I'm definitely excited to see where this is going, and I will definitely need to sit down and read a bit more about their change to Deep Desert.
Yep.
And then see if my PC can handle Dune potentially. I don't know. However, from one worm to another.
Nice.
Cast and Chill as full released, and we talked about the chill of RoadCraft, dude. Cast and Chill, like, fair enough, it has an idle mode, so you can just kind of sit back and let the NPC or the character do its thing, but at the same time, like, this pixelated, super chill environment that just kind of exists on your screen, where you can sit there and do your thing and absolutely block out anything from the world with trying to catch a walleye or a trout or all of these other places. Like, the demo was fabulous, but now with the full release, there's more locations, there's more boats, there's more bait, there's I love this little game.
You know what's sad is you told me about how great it was, and I was like, oh, I've got to play the demo. And then I didn't have much time with all the different projects going on. And then I finally got a quiet moment. I was like, oh, you know what? I got to try this out. Tiger really recommended it. A few others have. And I was like, okay, let's go. Went over there, clicked it, and it was like, oh, the demo's expired.
No!
And I was like, oh, so I didn't even get... I was super excited about that one as well. Like, when the demo was first announced, that it was just past the expiry on the demo. So I didn't even get to play it yet.
That they would remove the demo.
Yeah, I thought the demo would still be there as well, but it just didn't work. And I was like, oh. And it was like, I can't, even though it's like not much, I can't just buy another game when I'm so deep in other projects. It's like, it's not going to happen. And I'm going to, so I'm waiting on that. And then, of course, then Steam did their like fishing fest or whatever
Yeah.
for a week. And so, trust me, like about once a day for the whole of that week, somebody, like different people, would send me or ping me somewhere on my Discord or send me DMs or whatever. Hey, have you seen that there's a fishing fest on Steam? Like, yes, I have. I got so like I didn't really get annoyed, obviously, but so many people were pinging me every day, like, "Have you seen this?" Like, yes. And other people like, "Oh, we've lost Grumbles for a week." But anyway, I'm super glad that you're enjoying Cast and Chill. The irony of it is because of Dune, I basically haven't played any fishing games, and everybody knows I love fishing games, fishing mini games, anything like that. I love it. There's some that I looked at are even free to download and play, and we had that other fishing game we played, and I just have had no time for any fishing games, and it kind of makes me sad.
So the really nice thing about a game like Cast and Chill, of course, is it doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
Like, and there's no skill regression. There's no oh, you missed out on this temporary thing. It's just you hop into it, you play it for a bit, and then you hop out. And like the amount of times I've just had that on the screen and then sat there listening to a podcast and just let the little guy sit there and fish. And then he rows back to the port. He sells it, and then he rows back out again. He fishes, and then he rows back. Like, it's just kind of letting him do his thing while I'm just listening to a podcast in the background. So good, so good. Like, and it's weird, but
I might do it just chatting and just have that in the background.
Yes, honestly, I think that could really work. Just let him do his thing. Like, you don't have to sit there and cast or anything. It's just just enjoy it. And I think it offers just enough distraction for the brain, because you kind of look at the fish, you look at the casting and everything, that there's enough of a disconnect that you get that distraction, and it's so nice to have those moments in games. It's single player, it's controller, both PlayStation and Xbox supported. So yeah, to anyone who wants to look at that, until the 30th of June, there is still a promotion on that. So 13 euros ish. It's 20% off. Like, even full price, it's like 16, 17 euros. It's not a massive game.
I'm just looking at it now. It's a bit less even than that.
Yeah. So it's a super cute little game. I can say that much. And I love the art style. The art style is it's such a cool mixture between that old school pixelated kind of game, Leisure Suit Larry, Police Quest, I think it was called, or something. Monkey Island, but it also has very refined graphics to be a pixel game, because you see reflection in water, you see minute details, and that's also really cool. So and the music's super chill. Yeah, no, like, this is definitely going to be one of my favorite go-tos for just turning off the brain, honestly. So yeah, no, I think a just chatting thing with that could work. That could definitely work, because there's also going to be some viewers that are just going to be sitting there watching the gameplay, and I guarantee you it's going to be coming up like, oh, I dozed off. What happened?
yeah, for sure.
So yeah, Cast and Chill. It is it's out there. It's proud. It's wonderful. Play it. Thank you, Tilted, for gifting that to me, even though Mari said she wanted to gift that to me.
Nice.
So I told Tilted that. He was like, uh-oh, I'm in trouble. I have no segue to the next game.
Yeah, I mean, it would be a bit obscure if you did have one.
It would be. Damn it, you yoinked that right out of my mouth as I was about to say that. Although, did get you hook, line, and sinker with that, so that's fine.
Well,
Yay!
Nice.
Anyway, Clair Obscur, what's it all about?
So, yeah, Clair Obscur. I'm going to preface this by saying that obviously this was one that a few different creator friends had recommended to me. And I looked at it and I was like, well, this is a turn-based game, and I don't do very well with turn-based games. As in, I just don't enjoy them that much. But I couldn't ignore like the fuss that was happening. Like this, there was another one of these like kind of Valheim-esque, like suddenly, it launched yesterday and it sold 5 million copies kind of thing, And I was like, okay, what's going on? And I was intrigued by the art style and kind of like what storytelling they were doing. And then I watched, I think it was like some Dropped Frames podcast with I think the head of their company or whatever, or the lead developer, whatever. And
Editor's note, Dropped Frames is JP and
Ezekiel,
yes.
Yeah.
For those wondering.
And I just got incredibly enthusiastic based on the it's like small team thing or whatever, and the way the guy spoke about his story, how he came to do this, his passion for the project, the artwork, the happy coincidences of how they were meeting people. Like I think they met somebody who wanted to, who they said would be good to do like some of the voice acting lines or something, and then she like just turned into being this person who was just super engrossed and passionate about it, and they ended up hiring her on, and she became like part of like the acting stuff that they did and all the recordings and just so much more. So it was a series of like they just bumped into people, and it was like, and just were talking about, having a beer and saying, oh, we're working on this thing and we're doing this, and this, and somebody being like, oh, I'm really interested in that, and I have this background in history that might be relevant, blah, 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 and so the team grew just very organically like that. And just the way the guy described and just expressed himself and talked about like the product and all of his experiences in the game industry and why they avoided big publishers and all this kind of stuff got me even more intrigued into it. And then I had the opportunity to get a key for it, so I took that up. Then RoadCraft and Dune and all these other things, and I was like, oh my god, I'm never going to have time to play this. But I just found a slot where I was like, okay, let's have a go at this one, because I don't like the obligation of not meeting the obligations of streaming something if they've been kind enough to give me a key. So I played it, and I was just blown away by like the soundtrack, the visuals, the art style and animations, the storytelling, even though it's all like from the French translation or whatever. But the way it's been voice acted, the script that they've written, the emotion and feeling that they managed to convey through the characters and what's going on in that world that's been kind of devastated, and Paris has been like through some cataclysm just flung into the middle of the ocean. And I didn't even get a chance to get that far into it. I've only played like about 3.5 hours or something. But in that time, the game pretty much brought me to tears, but like in a good storytelling way, not in a I hate video games, I want to quit my life way. And the and the chat was feeling the same thing, so it was like it was translating through the stream and everything. And I think Piper, at least, maybe a couple of people, but at least Piper was like, this is your fault, and then like screenshots of how many hours into the game they are now and stuff like that, which is always nice to see. But yeah, it blew me away. And it's the best thing, the way I can describe it, because I'm not a turn-based, like I had a really bad experience with Baldur's Gate 3. We've talked that to death already, but for whatever reason, did not gel with that game at all, and the turn-based was a part of it, as well as story elements and some of the way they scripted and forced things. But this game is the absolute opposite of that. I was kind of very nervous about going into this one because I didn't want to have like PTSD from the other experience. And this game is just an absolute delight. There are a couple of points where there's a little bit of sort of rough edges with some of the movements and stuff, but overall, you don't care about anything like that. They're not like major game-breaking things. They're just little things that you notice are going around. But the world is beautiful. The animation is beautiful. The sound design and the soundtrack are amazing. The script and voice acting is absolutely on point and really makes you feel like, these are real people in this bizarre circumstance that they're trying to work their way through. And then the gameplay, it's like the least like turn-based in the sense of like you're in it's you in a boss fight, and then the boss goes, and then one of your team goes, and then maybe one of your other team goes, and then maybe a little, support of the boss goes, and that kind of thing. And it's kind of that round robin style of, I think that's what you would call turn-based, right?
Yeah.
So not in a like Civilization style or whatever, but it, because of the way the animations are done and because of the way you use your powers and interact with it, it doesn't feel, it's not like one of those isometric, like, like a Divine Divinity type thing where you're like scrolling across the map and then I click here and then a fireball goes off over there. It's more of I choose what kind of action and what kind of magical or skill tweaks and adjustments I make to it, and then it rolls an animation for what you did. It's that kind of style. And I think somebody said it was a bit like one of the Final Fantasies that are like that, but yes. I've never played Final Fantasy, so I don't know. But it was so smooth that it barely felt like obviously it was not an action game. But it felt more like an action game than it did a turn-based game because of the way they did the kind of selection of your skills and attacks and the way the animations worked. It was very rewarding.
And hear me out.
Mm-hmm.
Games that are built based on a passion as opposed to built on a passion for greed and money are made really well.
Yeah.
Strange.
Yeah.
And I will say, I'm loving this because I'm seeing that as a trend in game development lately. Where because through many years, that's what games were. They were passion projects. They grew forwards naturally. They weren't forced. They weren't pushed forward to meet the criteria of the stakeholders and so on. They were continued and developed on the basis of, we want a good project. We want a good product that we can give to our gamers. Not how do we turn a profit? How do we go about this? And I'm seeing more and more of these games come out with another one that we're going to be talking about next, actually. And there's a few coming out of Iceland from Myrkur Studios, and I'm seeing more of these around. And I think it's so cool. And I think Clair Obscur really showed the world that you can have massive success and the look and feel of a fully AAA funded game without necessarily having to turn a profit the first day around. They did. They 100% did. And for good reason. It's because it has those elements that you talked about. It's the massive story. It's the wonderful sound design, the voiceovers, the characters, the way they interact, everything. Like, they've done such a good job.
Yep.
And it's so fully deserved what they're doing. I want to see more of these things.
Yep. Truly amazing experience, and just hats off to them. Like, and for me to say that again with a kind of a game that I don't really enjoy, you barely notice it because you enjoy and you're immersed in the world with a great script and storytelling and voice acting. You just You forget about the other stuff. Like it's the combat doesn't matter to the overall experience. It matters in terms of progressing and you know, it's a key core part of the game, but it's not the only thing. It's not like let's here slap a little bit of story on the side of,
Yeah.
you know, really, really well done. Amazing.
So yeah, no, that's really cool. And it's not without reason that's been covered by so many very big names within the content creation sphere. So yeah, Clair Obscur. If you like good story, go ahead. We're gonna be moving on though to some games on the horizon. And one game that's been on the horizon for me for a bit now, ever since I saw it on TikTok, because we've talked about Sea of Thieves before,
yes.
which I still want to play now that we have the PvE mode. There is one game that was recently demoed on Steam, and a few bigger creators got to test it out. And seeing what they're coming up with in Jump Ship, I'm excited for this, because you are basically in. It's a mix between what feels like FTL and Sea of Thieves, but it's fully PvE. But you have these time constraints. There's the high risk, high reward constraints and stuff going on. But you are basically on a little bit of a spaceship. Everybody has their own roles, and you're trying to grab loot and get out of there safely and selling it. So they've taken a bit of everything from a few games that have been out recently, like Repo and what was the game that was like almost a horror game where you're collecting trash and trying to sell it. Crew, I think. I don't know, but
something Crew. I know the one you mean.
Yeah. So it's the whole part of going out there to collect stuff, bringing it back to your ship in order to get profit, so that you can upgrade your ship and so on. They've taken some elements from that, but they've added a really, really, really cool art style to it that feels slightly reminiscent of Sea of Thieves, but it's not as cartoony. And then of course it's in space. Everybody loves being in space. Well, not everybody, but it's done in a really cool way, and combat seems really fetching, and just the fact that you can be on a ship together with I think it's 3 other friends roaming around doing these missions. It seems really cool, and I'm really looking forward to this. I think this could be one of those hidden gems that catches a lot of people off guard. So now I'm prepared to say, don't be caught off guard by Jump Ship. This looks cool. It does. Have you looked at it?
Very, very briefly, but not like really, just seeing a couple of people playing it and being like, oh, that's interesting. I've just added to my wish list based on your talking of it. So not something I've looked at in depth. Well, I'm vaguely aware of it. I'm just looking at the pictures now, so looks like it could be exciting. And if it, as you said, if it's all PvE co-op, fantastic. What's not to like?
They built the game like right out of the gate of going, we are not doing PvP. We want this to be a co-op, and we want this to be fun. We want this to not have the elements of suddenly being ambushed by some sort of bag. You know, because that can happen in Sea of Thieves. Like if you're in the PvP part of Sea of Thieves, but you're not being part of it, you can be jumped. Like people can steal your stuff and really screw you over. And they said they didn't want that to happen with us. They want to have fun with us. They want to do things with it, and just kind of looking at the UI and looking at the at the thoughts of how they are talking about things.
Yeah,
I think this could be cool.
fantastic.
There's they've done partially this Helldivers sector clearing thing. So it's similar to games you've already played, No Man's Sky and Sea of Thieves, says Steam. So yeah, I've forgotten to add it to my wish list. I have now added it to my wish list.
Cool.
They're saying coming soon to early access. I don't think I'm going to be jumping on the early access though. I want to see where this goes. But I can easily see this being a Sunday shenanigan kind of thing.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Yeah.
With you, me, Lima, either Doc or possibly Damien if he wakes up. That man needs a new alarm clock. That's all I'm saying.
He does. And a new chair and a new camera.
Yeah. Speaking of new stuff, updates to older games we've already touched on. There's been a few lately, and there's more coming up.
Yep.
Lightyear Frontier, which is the robot mech farmy game, has some big updates coming. Satisfactory has its 1.1 update coming. Turmoil recently added multiplayer. Enshrouded, of course, constantly doing big updates.
Yep.
Airport Sim, we haven't looked at that in a while, but that has updates coming. Ships at Sea has larger updates incoming, which I am very much looking forward to because I still want to do a bit of a light RP kind of session with you and the others. And like there seems to be a lot of games that are picking up updates that are they're just continuing stuff. Scum was a game that Scum went 1.0 recently, actually, now that I think about it.
Yep.
Yeah, well, I mean, New World, but not going to worry too much about that. Dinkum has updates. There's a lot of games that are updating that I think would be really cool to have a look at. Again, so who knows? Maybe we'll be touching on some older games again at some point.
Yep.
And if there's any games out there that people want to see, you gotta let us know, right?
Yep.
To see if there's
one that I want to have a look at with our Sunday group or with a group of friends is still one time we had a pretty good run of it, but I still haven't really gotten a proper go at Ark, and because Ark Survival Evolved, the original ones, celebrated its 10-year anniversary a couple of weeks back. We did a little sponsored thing for them, and we played on the Ragnarok map, and myself and Purpley playing as Hubert, we did a little just try and get to the Wyverns kind of thing. And that was just like silly shenanigans for a few hours, good laugh. But it really got me thinking, like, because Survival Ascended, the updated version, is getting the Ragnarok map. I think it may have already just dropped, or it's about to drop soon.
Right.
So I love that map. I do quite like the Survival Ascended. There's all the shenanigans with the companies and stuff in the background, but putting that to one side, they did actually make some nice changes to the game, albeit it needed optimization to not melt PCs. But anyway, so that's one as well that's getting an update with that map coming out. And the other one that I would be remiss in not mentioning is, and I haven't had a chance to look into it, but I've seen some of the high-level stuff, is RimWorld just went to 1.6.
Oh, yeah.
And they got the ability now to make ships. So in atmosphere ships, I think they are, although I think there's some low orbit stations you can go and visit as well. And basically you can make ships now. It was something that was in a mod that was available for a while that I wasn't aware of, but now they have kind of the equivalent of it. I don't know exactly the comparison, but they have that baked into the game now. I think actually, I'm not sure if that's part of the update or if that's part of a new DLC that they're dropping soon. So forgive me, I need to check the details on that. But it might be part of the DLC. Actually, I might see if I can reach out to them and grab that to showcase it for people, because RimWorld is just phenomenal. What a great game that I've come very late to, but I've grown to absolutely adore that game. And the last update I thought was amazing, and this one promises some good fun. But the idea of being able to build a little ship at your base and then basically load all your people and your good stuff on it and just fly around. And what you have to do is fly around and look for other opportunities to find things to then enhance the ship further on. So it's just changing it to be a more mobile base, if you will, which I love. At least the concept of that. I haven't played it or looked at it in depth yet, but the concept of RimWorld plus you move around a lot rather than being on the one map, I think that's sounds pretty special.
So RimWorld crossed with FTL. Cool.
Yeah.
Huh. Well, like, if anyone knows any games that we've missed that you've already seen us play or heard us talk about, that you know something exciting is coming up for, leave a comment down below or on the Discord or wherever. Reminder for those of you listening on Spotify, we have a way of checking comments there now. Woo!
Yay!
We've had for a while. I've just forgot to mention it. But it's a lot of fun. To be able to interact with you guys and hear what you guys are playing. So please let us know what's going on. Moving swiftly along. Unless I've forgotten something. Did I forget something? I don't think I did.
You forgot one in that section, but I only wanted to mention it very briefly.
Yes. Ahoy.
Because I know we're running on a little bit. Thanks, June. But Ahoy is a game that had only just popped up, I think, because they released a YouTube trailer. I'll paste the link in the thing that we can include in the description as well. I'll just use their description. Ahoy is a multiplayer voyage to the 1780s. Cooperate with fellow captains and officers to explore the West Indies, trade goods, manage your player and NPC crew, and engage in ferocious naval battles. Master seamanship to forge a legacy in this historically accurate representation of the Age of Sail. I'm not going to go too far into it now, but I strongly encourage people to look for the link in the description, watch their rather lengthy, I mean, you can look it up on Steam as well, but they have a Kickstarter going. I'm not yet a backer of it, but I'm going to keep a very close eye on it. It looks incredible, and their concept and the design they're working towards, which will be in 3 major phases. The first phase being a kind of like the proof of concept, and where you get to go on and sail the world with friends and just do co-op stuff and purely get used to being in the world and everything, and it helps them fund the next stage of development. The second stage, they're going to go for a like PvP arena style thing, purely as a way to meet next funding goals and to test all the battle mechanics,
Right.
And those elements, where you'll be like fulfilling your tasks on a ship and everything, you know, and as part of a fleet. And then if that is successful, the full-blown game is going to be this full historically accurate representation of the Age of Sail in the West Indies. And you know, I can't really express in words. It's worth looking up the video when you have a moment. Their goal and their vision for the game, and again talking about passion projects, just looks absolutely incredible. And I've always had a bit of a side obsession in terms of trying to immerse myself in that kind of setting. Do yourself a favor, don't think about Atlas or anything else, just go and check Ahoy out and see what they're putting together, because I was very blown away by what they're trying to do with the visuals and their design, but also how they're going for this historical accuracy and representation of like, what was it like in the world at that point with all warts and all, you know, the good, the bad and the ugly, and how can we bring that into a game, you know, in the modern era without ruining it because of modern sensibilities and making a game that doesn't represent how the world was, kind of thing. So go and have a look at it, look at their vision and the way they're their kind of lead guide describes how they're approaching the topic and the sort of history of the Age of Sail. Again, only something that real like nerds and geeks that are fully into that stuff would really even try and attempt. Looks amazing. You can wishlist it on Steam to give them a little bit of support for free, if you will. Check it out. And they, like I said, they're doing a Kickstarter approach. I really hope they're successful with it. I'll definitely be trying to check out the stages of it if it becomes available to me. I wish them every success. It looks impressive, like a huge ambitious project, but they seem like they've got a good head for it. So we'll see.
Okay. Well, oh my God. I'm just looking at some of the artwork they have so far.
Right? Yep.
I hope I really, really, really hope that this isn't going to be another one of those just let's churn out something because we see some sort of traction.
Mm-hmm.
Because if they're able to follow up with this...
Yep. Okay. They're certainly talking a good story. If they can deliver on what their vision is and how the guy talks about it and presents like, this is what we're doing... It's either, hopefully it's not one of those like they got a super marketing pitch and then it all just doesn't work out.
Yeah.
Which sometimes those things won't work out even though the intention is there, but it just doesn't, catch fire and it doesn't get the attention or whatever and the funding it needs. And then people, life is there. So people drift away and aren't able to do it. But if you look at what they're doing and how they're working with historians, naval experts, archivists, musicians, like... They're trying to look at all the different facets of it, like what would be the way to make the most immersive Age of Sail experience possible in a game. It's an impressive. It's well worth the time to watch the video.
I'm kind of confused though, because I'm on the Steam page, and I scroll down, and more like this, Caribbean Legend. Forza Horizon 5, Finnish Cottage Simulator, and Assassin's Creed Black Flag.
Yeah, I got similar, but I've got Squad. I've also got Forza. I got Skull and Bones. Okay, reasonable. I've got Easy Red 2, which looks like Vietnam War simulator. I also have Finnish Cottage Simulator, which I didn't know was a thing until now. So that makes me laugh.
I need to have a look at Finnish Cottage Simulator because this seems like My Summer Car, but with fancy graphics.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, it's looking at the
what?
Oh my God! And it's got very positive reviews.
Add to
since
wish
last
list.
November.
Add to wish list.
There you go.
Okay, that was.
That looks like a Friday night evening shenanigans game for you, for sure.
It does. Or Sunday morning for a couple of sessions, and then we're done.
That's true.
6-player
Oh, it's got fishing. It's got fishing.
Okay, 6-player multiplayer, sauna, boat, and moped driving, and like you said, fishing and other. Okay. Yeah. Like this is coming to you live.
Oh God!
This is our true reaction to this. I've never seen this before. What in the world?
It actually looks quite amazing.
That's
for that kind of shenanigans.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. That is. There you go. Finnish Cottage Simulator.
Yeah. But also, while you're playing Finnish Cottage Simulator, don't forget, and he said cottage cheese, don't forget to go check out the Ahoy video.
No, sorry. Ahoy, that was what we were talking about in that segment.
Yeah.
Oh, no. God. I think I managed to confuse myself there. Anyway, speaking of confusion, shared hypetrain is a thing.
Yes.
Apparently. I didn't know this. Well, I knew it, but I haven't experienced it. I haven't seen it in work until I did my 5-year partnerversary Friday evening and had a lot of fun with that. And suddenly there was a shared hype train because me and StatsBloke were doing shared chat, which worked well for that. I want to point out. But suddenly there was a hype train because people were being generous, and I was very confused. Because I don't understand how they work, or didn't understand how they work, but apparently you can have a hype train that is shared because of events that go on in each of the chats. So in this case, you could have one sub going on. I'm actually not sure if trigger events are similar, but you could have one sub in one chat that add to the hype train, and then you could have 50 subs in another one that contribute to the hype train. But the length of the hype train is shared, but not the I'm still confused
revenue.
by it. It's why. I'm still confused as to why they would do this.
I think they do it because they think people will get excited and jump on board the train from either side.
Yeah. Which is understandable, but at the same time,
which is understandable.
It's like, surely there are better ways of doing this? Like, is this another Clancyism?
I don't know, but, you have to assume it's been greenlit in his era, so... Yeah. I mean... Yeah, it does smack a little bit of like, bells and whistles and shiny things, and like, oh, look, shiny.
Yeah.
I mean, ultimately, if people, are safe and comfortable and willing to support, and they maybe get prompted, like they were able to do support anyway, but they just weren't thinking of it at that point in time, and then that train happens, maybe triggered elsewhere, but it makes them think, oh, you know what, I wanted to gift some subs here or whatever, or some bits. And have part of the, like, I guess it's like a little bit of a social, like having fun and like driving it forward and, a bit of a hoorah and a party kind of moment. So in principle, like all those things, nothing really wrong with them. I've never been super comfortable with the whole train thing. But in the end, if it does help us sustain and have a cup of coffee and not starve or whatever, then I guess it's good.
Yeah.
Even if it's a little bit confusing. I thought that it's slightly like awkward, not meant in any way as a criticism, but like it was a bit tricky of like you wanted to say thanks to people that were doing stuff, and then obviously Stats was thanking people.
Yeah.
And I was just there like as a viewer and a listener and in the Discord call, and it was like that's tricky because then you've got a time like when the other one takes a breath, jump in and say the thanks and that, and then people I think who might have opted out of the shared chat or whatever, it could be like, well, what's going on? What's all this other stuff we're talking about, Plus the fact that it just really was a successful train and everybody jumped on board and got into it and everything. I was innocent, but a lot of other people did. And so that kind of, in a way, exacerbated or compounded slightly the whole confusion element or like the awkward element of... Because if you had to say thanks to 50 people and Stats had to say thanks to 50 people or 5 people or whatever, not that the numbers matter that much, but it's just awkward because then you're reading all of them out? Are you just picking ones you recognize? But even then it's still, you pick 10 out because you recognize them and then there's 5 other names going on. And then I would imagine that was potentially a bit confusing for some of the people chatting or for lurkers and stuff like that. But again, I suppose once you've seen that a couple of times, you get the gist of what's going on, and hype trains have been around for a while, so people are probably roughly familiar with them. I thought it was more awkward for you two guys than it was for the viewers, maybe,
Like, it felt a bit weird.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, it's like, okay, Twitch has enabled this. Like, this is again something that I would like to be asked. Would you want to be part of a shared hype train instead of, hey, here's shared hype trains. They're on by default.
Yeah.
I don't even know if you can opt out of them.
I'm not sure. I haven't looked into that.
Like, I've seen nothing new in there, so that's, well, not pertaining to hype trains at least, but
Mm-hmm.
it felt a bit weird, but I just had to kind of ride that wave and say thank you, and yeah, and then here we are.
Yeah. I mean, again, like just to be clear, we're never in a way of saying, you know, we don't want support and all those kind of things. It's always truly appreciated and respected and very humbling experience for us. It's just a bit, if it's confusing for us, then we think about that in terms of, well, this must also be potentially confusing for our audience as well, or
Yeah.
that kind of thing. So yeah, just as I said, the main thing is just like, well, Twitch could introduce new features, give us a heads up and say, hey, in 2 months we're introducing this feature. You can turn it on by clicking here, kind of thing. Here are these articles so you can get familiar with it, rather than, ta-da, we did a thing.
Yeah.
Or like, hey, we're beta testing something and you're in it. And you're like, whoa, what? Because they are fundamentally changing our content and what we're producing for people, you know, whether we want it or not. And that's, yeah.
And
it would be nice if we had the chance to prepare for that rather than it happening.
yeah, and one of the things they have changed without really telling anyone is how clips are linked and created, which has created chaos lately on Twitch. Because it used to be twitch.tv/clips and then a randomized URL. Now it's including the channel name and then /clips and then the randomized URL. And with that change, there's a lot going on with clips not being created, not being available. I saw a weird message yesterday after a clip was made, where it said resource not available or something like that. I can't quite remember, but it was weird. And it like the clip is created, it's technically there. Yeah, failed to determine content classification. Like, what?
Yeah. So there's a couple of things. I'm not sure about that particular issue, what that was. But the change to the URL thing was something that's been going on for quite a while. We noticed this a few months back because suddenly people were like, come on, can I post a clip? I was like, yes, if it's a Twitch clip, go for it. And then people were posting them. And of course, we'd whitelisted specifically Twitch clips, URL start. And then all of a sudden they started getting people timed out in chat and that. And we're like, what the heck? Because they changed it to / creator channel name rather. And the problem with that is if you blanket approve that, people can just come and start dumping in like all sorts of things, just links to that other creators' channels, publicizing their own channels or other people's channels and all sorts of stuff, right?
Yep.
So we've chosen deliberately not to blanket approve, but instead the mods have been going through over time and just saying, oh yeah, here's a buddy of ours, or here's someone we often reference or we raid into or whatever. Let's, you know, and some of their community comes over and posts clips and things like that. So we're just adding them over time. We just had one a couple of days ago. It was one of the late shift guys, maybe a cream clip or something like that. And obviously we know those guys a little bit, some better than others. And we've played a few games with them and role played with a few of them. And it's like, so we're like, yeah, of course you can post a clip from Cream, whatever. And it just turned out his one wasn't in the whitelist, as it were. So we had to like scramble and put that in on the fly. And it's kind of just annoying because it's probably like 100 creators or something that I'd go, oh, okay, these guys would be fine. I know their kind of vibe. I know their content. You know, I probably follow most of them already. So I would allow it. But the fact that we'd have to allow each of those individually to avoid someone coming in and just posting like clips from a completely different vibe that we wouldn't necessarily want to promote on my channel, it's just kind of annoying. I mean, the flip side is in the past they could have done that. It's just that now, because it includes the creator name and everything as well, it's kind of more publicity, if you will, for something you wouldn't necessarily want to promote. Yeah.
And like it's kind of like a two-edged sword. That like on one end it allows you for more granular moderating. On the other end, it forces you to do more moderation. Manual moderation even. So it's I can see both positives, but also a lot of negatives with it.
Yep.
Because it's the whole thing of, if you want to be able to whitelist clips from something, then that's going to be a whole lot of work, like you've already said. But like, how do you manage it? How do you go about it? Like this is where I think an innate system from Twitch with kind of a permission thing would work. You know, where the whole, like, because a lot of channels have this exclamation point permit and then the user. If you build that into into a slash command instead, it then hides it as a command, but you can still have the prompt to the user that you are now allowed to do that, and to give them that, like, you now have a permission to post a link or such.
Yep.
Like, yeah, like, do you still run the risk of someone posting something malicious? Yes. However, you then have accountability on that person, that they are, like, they are asking for permission, and they are also kind of you can kind of put it on them to say, you are not posting anything malicious, you are posting a legit clip and within these frames, and if you build that into Twitch itself, then that could be a good thing.
Yep.
But like, here's another thing that I've seen with clips and VODs lately: more and more ads on them.
Interesting.
Very interesting, which is something that I know we've talked about before.
Yeah, I've not seen it so much on clips, but I have a different point on that anyway coming up in a moment.
Feel free. You also had something regarding shorts on
the
tube for you.
So there's a couple of things baked into one. The clips. So it's funny because now it's become like super obvious to me. It's kind of getting obvious, but now it's like really hit me in the last week. But like, we've always talked about what do they call it? Visibility and discoverability. And, you know, how Twitch doesn't always do itself any favors in terms of helping creators. Like, it highly publicizes specific niches or subcategories, and it certain subcategories, and it highly publicizes like high performers or whatever, but generally speaking, I don't think it does that well, although they have now got this Discord system with the partners can apply for a front page and stuff like that, and to be honest, I need to do that, but I haven't got around to it. I know TC did one recently, so I'll probably just reach out and have a chat with them about it maybe at some point.
I did so recently too.
Oh, did you? I wasn't sure if you did or not.
Apparently,
okay, cool.
My 5-year partnerversary wasn't a good enough reason.
Oh, okay. Well, that sucks.
Yeah.
That's stupid. 5-year anniversary? Wow, that's ridiculous. Okay.
Yeah.
Well done, Twitch. Yet another tick box on the race to the bottom. Good job. So, one thing that's really hit me is, one thing that they've done quite well, and I don't want them to take away or ruin, although they've just made a change to it in the last week as well, was the ability that you can fairly easily share a clip from Twitch onto I think 4 other platforms, right? So YouTube, TikTok, Instagram. I think there might be a 4th one. It might only be those 3. I'm not sure. But anyway, pretty cool. And I never really thought about it in terms of discoverability in that. But I have gotten into the habit of quite regularly posting clips across, and again, encouraging community to make clips, and my mods have been excellent at it. And some of my content creator friends are helping me by making good fun clips as well. Many of which I changed the titles of, but that's, whatever. But it's really hit me this week specifically with a couple of my Dune clips, because I'll give you one glaring example. I have a clip on Twitch So firstly, I want to mention that they've just changed literally the last couple of days. I don't know if I'm in a beta pool or whatever, because again, we don't get told this. But they've just changed the clip thing where it used to be the little, you could have either it does the vertical layout of the clip, and you have the full clip, so it's just all the main one block of the screen. That's fairly difficult to resize in that. So if you're just getting very center of the screen, you're good, but otherwise you might miss a bit. Or there was what they call stacked, which is you can have a little box, typically like where your on-screen camera is or whatever, and then another box underneath previously that would be the main center of the screen. But there you'd have more flexibility on having a slightly wider box and maybe capturing more of the action of what's going on. All well and good. They didn't have very many. It had the sizing of the individual boxes, but it was a bit kind of fiddly to kind of match it up well. This week, they've changed it, like I've just noticed yesterday and today, so that now your camera part, if you will, typically will appear at the bottom and the main content will appear at the top, which is kind of weird. But also your sizing options, you will now have a slider bar in the middle that you can drag up and down vertically, and it will have a direct correlated impact on the width and height of the boxes that you can choose to move around for the other content you want to capture. It's hard to describe in words. People have to look at it when they make clips on Twitch, or probably only relevant for content creators that are editing the clips afterwards. But anyway, so they've changed those features up. I'm going to wait and see with bated breath what that does to my new clips, whether that helps them or whatever. But going back to my key point about discoverability, I have a clip called Dune Flap Like You've Never Flapped Before, because I was talking about us trying to get away on the carrier and not get eaten by the worm. And then it's #worm, #spice, #panic, because that was basically what happened in the clip. And we got out of there on this one. This was our very first spice run we did the other day in co-op. So hot topic, hot game, end game activity. So all the boxes ticked in terms of like what might be attractive and interesting for people. That clip has 13 views since the 19th of June, its creation, on Twitch, right? I shared that to YouTube, and on YouTube, it has 28,900 views. Exactly the same clip. So talk about discoverability discrepancies between Twitch and YouTube. If you're a Twitch streamer, content creator, and you're not sharing your clips to YouTube, get into the habit of creating, they create YouTube shorts automatically. I would also give you the advice, don't do 2 or 3 in quick succession all at once, because sometimes the system gets confused and exports the wrong kind of clip. It makes it a full screen one, and then people won't watch it. So give them a little breathing space in between would be my advice from my experience on it. But yeah, if you want to see your clips go from 13 views on Twitch where the action happened to potentially many times that, in this one particular clip, I mean, this clip is an outlier. It's gone bananas, like, compared to my usual ones. But yeah, it's got 29,000 or whatever the refreshed value would be now. But in the last couple of days for June, I've got that one. I've got another one sitting about 7,000. I've got another one I did just today, which is almost hit 6.5. Well, it's over 6,500. So make sure you're promoting yourself and helping your own discoverability. If you have a YouTube or an Instagram or a TikTok, make sure you're sharing your clips using the Twitch functionality. Another top tip I would give you is, if you do edit the clip and the layouts and everything, once you save that and apply it, including you can change the name. So basically you own all the clips no matter who made them. You can change the names and all the rest of it. Make sure that when you apply all of that and save those changes, let the clip then process on Twitch. Takes about like 5 to 10 seconds. Let it fully process before you do the sharing, because otherwise I've had an experience where I've applied changes, it's still been processing. It allows you to hit share and share it across to YouTube. If you do that, sometimes your YouTube ends up with a really bad, like, 360p version of the file or something, and there's nothing you can do about it apart from take it down try again kind of thing.
Right.
But yeah, I just thought that's why I wanted to mention the clips and shorts thing, because all the discussions we've had in the past and that continue to go on about discoverability. How about them apples?
Yeah, no, it's I still think that Twitch are completely missing an option of running ads on VODs and expanding that and embracing that more. But then again, now they are allowing us to share more of our content more freely, more easily. So, I don't know.
Yeah, just be careful how you promote your other platforms.
Yeah.
Don't end up like Nutty getting banned for a day.
Jesus, that is the stupidest thing I've heard in a long time.
I know, right?
Bracker.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's not get into that right now. That's only gonna be detrimental. But I've for a long time said that clips and shorts are definitely a good way of promoting yourself, and as opposed to creating these monthly clip reels that used to be a thing for Twitch. I really like this way of sharing it. One thing I want to say for content creators out there, please have a look at the wording for the option of allowing viewers to share your clips. It's spicy is what I'll say. Now we're just gonna move on to other Twitch features that they're throwing into our faces. One that kind of confused me, but wanted to test it out. I can create my own 35% discount on 5 gifted subs or more, where for X amount of hours, for up to a total of 70 hours. Is it 5 different sessions I can have? I don't remember.
I think it's 7 from what I was reading before.
Up to, so it's, I think it's a total of 70 hours. Up until the 31st of December 2025. I saw this randomly. Like I was looking through my Twitch dashboard. There was no prompt in my Twitch news or anything. There was no email telling me this. There was nothing. There was no ping on the partner Discord as far as I could see. Because the only pings there are, you can apply for the front page. If you have an anniversary, let us know. It'll be good for you. Yes, I'm still petty about that. Anyway. And I saw this. I was like, hold on. What? So we, as creators, can now put on a 35% temporary discount. It's weird. Like like, why? How hard are they driving this? Because first it was turbo and now it's normal subs again. Like, how hard are they driving this sales force? And how do they how do they
thing the
I just don't get it. Like, I think it's cool that we have more power over it, though. I will say that is actually kind of fun, that I can set the amount of hours, I can set the date even, and then be like, okay, now we do this. Because then I can set it to special promotions, or let's say a subathon, subiversary, or whatever, and then allow people to do that. That's an option, and I think that's kind of cool, because it allows me to drive the income of my own channel when I am available. not just oh, here's September, you have to stream these days within September. Well, what if I can't? You know. So, yeah, no, I kind of like it, but I'm still slightly weirded out by it. The fact that it was just there without letting me know.
Yeah, well, when they started with the discount thing, generally it was a bit weird. And the only reason I sort of saw a summary of changes and I twigged. And also it coincided with a point recently where I was just getting really, really tired, just jaded by the whole like constant discounts. Because it's cool and all in principle, but it's a shared discount, which I don't think is that clear to people. So essentially, more people might gift subs, but 35% off.
Yeah.
Which is a hit to the revenue that you're getting from those. I don't know. So what they did is they were like, oh, you can opt out of that now. So all I did was just go in and turn it off because there's discounts everywhere across the board. And I think it's giving a bit of an illusion, I feel, of like, I'm trying to get to the point where I'm at least breaking even, right? Which alone through Twitch, I can't do, right? In terms of cost of living, rent, and so forth. So, and I don't have an expensive lifestyle at all, but I still struggle to break even. It's not a sub story, just being factual about it. What I don't need is Twitch saying to everybody, hey, here's a 35% because the discount that hits the creator as well as Twitch. Because for them, they're talking about the whole of their whole service, their whole platform, right? So sure, it still can work out for them. It must do, otherwise they wouldn't have run the numbers. They wouldn't be offering it, right? But for individual creators like myself, it's like, well, hang on a minute. Now you're just selling my part of the service and my content for cheaper, right? When I'm already struggling to make ends meet. So how about no? So I switched it off. And then about a week or so later, they brought all these other things in that weren't there originally when it first appeared in my monetization options. So I'm like you. I like the idea of I can choose to say, hey, you know what? It's December. Maybe it's like my birthday month, whatever. I'll do a discount thing because, maybe people are going to be generous at that time of year or whatever, whatever the thought process is, right? And I can do like a birthday event, offer the discounts, and all that, like you did with your partner anniversary. It makes sense. You're making a party, you're entertaining, you're doing a few extra things or whatever, and why not? Everyone on board for that event. But just as a general principle of like, here's like essentially a cut in your revenue, have a good day kind of thing. I'm like, no, you can't. Again, give us options. Don't just turn these things on. Because I didn't really give it too much thought, but I've been trying to go through the whole process and looking at like, how do I make this all, match up, so that, because essentially what really stresses me and drives me in the background is I want to be giving more money to charity, as we did for the last 3 years, but I need to make ends meet first. There's no point if I can't cover the bills and the tax bills and all that, and then. There's not that the taxman can get much at the moment anyway, because I'm not making enough to pay very much to them, right? So, but the point is, so we switched from 69% of all revenue to 69% of profit, because okay, I've got to make a profit first. So now I've got the stress in my mind of like, well, if I can get to the point where I make a bit more than what I need to just live, then I can start donating to charity again. Most of that to charity, because I don't want money, essentially. If I could do it all for free, I would. It's just not the way the system that we live in and the world works, right? So I feel like Twitch is just putting additional pressure on individual creators, apart from the ones that are already above that threshold, that watermark, where they're all okay already anyway. If you have 10,000 subs a month, you should be fine. Unless you have an extravagant lifestyle, right?
Yeah.
But that's not the majority of people. Partners or affiliates. And so putting these extra discounts, with their theory, I guess, being, well, loads more people, you'll get 100 more people, gifting subs than that. It doesn't tend to work out that way. What happens is the people that have the ability to do so and, are willing to support their streamer of choice do so and continue to do so. And that's great. and they get that discount, but it has that knock-on effect.
Yeah.
So this is not, not in any way a negative towards the people being kind enough to support. I hope it doesn't come across that way, because it's not. But that's the reality of it. When you step back and look at the overall situation, it's Twitch doing what it needs to do to survive, but possibly and arguably, in my case, I think, doing me a disservice and lowering my revenue. So
yeah, that's why
again,
that's why I think it's nice that we have options of when we want to enable it.
Yes. Yeah. See, I like September because September's like a big institutional, like it's a big thing once a year. Everybody knows it's publicized, and typically that draws people in, and they're like, "Oh, hey, let's go and give a bit more support if we can, or whatever." Right? So I don't mind that, as you said before. It's an example where that kind of works. But to do that kind of, quotes like willy nilly, just randomly at 3 or 4 points of the year, just throw stuff out. And as you said, thankfully it is optional and we can opt out, but they still turn it on by default. It's feels a little bit cheeky.
It does. It does. And like you've already mentioned, the whole thing with September is, of course, that it usually adds a bonus for the streamers.
Yes.
And I remember the first September I was part of after being partner. That was wild. Like September 2020 was absolutely wild. That went nuts. Like there was so many extra gifted subs, and it wasn't just that. Bits too was added on top of as part of that promotion, and yeah, that drove revenue for both me and for Twitch.
Weird? Yeah, exactly. Isn't it weird how when Twitch takes the hit and offers the September variation where people know and are fully communicated and understand, and the streamer can talk clearly and openly about it, hey, I'm going to get the benefit of this. Twitch is supporting me, and if you enjoy this, you can pay a bit extra or whatever on top for the entertainment that I offer you. Everybody knows exactly what's going on, bang, right? But this one is more like, hey, there's this discount, so it looks like it'll be beneficial, but people don't generally understand, oh, but that's actually a 35% for both the streamer and the service.
Yeah.
And that's, and again, I know it's a partnership, and I know we're benefiting by being able to run a business on their platform, their service, get all of that. But we've got to survive. We don't have Daddy Bezos in the background who can bail us out if it gets, and you can say it's different company, but the bottom line is, if they don't make money and they haven't been making money for a decade, then how are they still there? Right? So the difference is because they have Papa Bezos to call upon if things get tight, and if he decides to carry on funding it, So, it's, again, I think it's mainly because it bothers me that people probably aren't really that informed, and it makes it awkward for us to have to then say, like, thanks for gifting. If you do take advantage of the discount that Twitch is offering, please understand that that's also a discount on, on my revenue too. How are you going to translate that or communicate that to people without making it seem like you're being greedy?
Yeah, that's kind of the thing. But it's for now, I'm just going to see it as, hey, let's have fun on a special occasion. It's not going to be a mainstay way of creating revenue. Like I found it really good to use as part of the partnerversary, because it was like, you know what, let's add some extra discount on merch, let's add some extra discount on subs, and let's just have a celebration, like, because that was the idea of it. And it created notifications, it created hype, and that kind of brings up the mood. But it's not it's not the way of kind of creating a stable economic growth of the channel. That wasn't the part of it. So I think that's where Twitch need to put the pressure now. Like, they need to look at the stability, the predictability.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have predictable income and streamers that know that they will thrive and do well on your platform, they will bring in the viewers.
Yep.
And the viewers will bring in income for you. So it's again the whole partnership thing that you mentioned. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. We'll just have to see. Like, they have done good things. And I will say there's been more positive than negative over the last year. So I'm carefully optimistic.
Yep.
In regards to this.
Yeah.
Something I'm very happy about, though, that I know a lot of people have given feedback on, and that I've seen myself in use, is the new less intrusive ad placements. You've seen it. You've seen it in the way of the new banner ads. I've seen it in the way of the, and I don't know if this is a bug or not, but it seems to happen too much to just be a random bug or such. But the normal full screen ads show up in the top right corner above chat, where the streamer used to be relegated to.
Yeah.
And I like these. I think this works. I'm okay with having ads on screen that are like this, that doesn't kind of jump in my face and scare me with too loud audio or such. You know, I'm okay with this sort of ad.
Yep.
And I think most people are, because
I agree.
It like, one, for us streamers, it allows us to continue having that conversation and those talks that we have, instead of suddenly being interrupted by an ad and then sitting there kind of going la 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 la, you know, and just kind of treading water until the person is back. You know, especially for us that might be there to answer questions in regards to World of Warships or other games that we may be playing. The answers might sometime be long and be part of a longer conversation, and suddenly being interrupted by an ad in the middle of that is annoying. But having a banner ad kind of pop up and go, hey, check out this product from Amazon or whatever, you know, I don't mind that. It doesn't disrupt me, it doesn't disrupt the conversation, it doesn't like it's not in the way. Simply put.
Exactly.
So I'm really glad they're doing this.
So something makes me feel like the way with the ad appearing in the little box on the top right, that is a bug. I'm not going to say it is. Obviously, I don't know, but it's my gut feeling is I think that's meant to be the new, like, everything gets a third, like a third chat, a third of the ad, and a third of the streamer, was kind of what was announced. But you know what? If it ends up being the little box and they get ads that take advantage of that smaller footprint, then all the better, right? If you're doing a thing where it's like a global symbol or an easy, like, here's this shoe you could buy, and it's a picture of the shoe in that space or whatever, and you can click it, then you've already won, right? That's like a website ad on another kind of page. So in theory, especially with Amazon there, they should have so much experience, knowledge, and skill in that area that I would blow my mind if they couldn't do that. So the question is more, are they willing to do that? Or maybe we're seeing something where they're getting a little bit more crosstalk and cooperation across different teams in that area, as part of their drive to turn a profit one day. Because it feels like they've been a bit slow if you go back a few years to get to this point, whereas Amazon, that's what it does, right? So how did they not take advantage of that? Or maybe it is more complicated than I'm imagining, but it, I suppose they also have to avoid things like antitrust accusations and stuff like that. But you think at least the technology was there, and then it may be an issue of licensing and what they're allowed to call as data sets behind it all.
So is
all right.
Sorry, I was slightly dying suddenly. So the the way things have changed in the entertainment sphere, with both copyright and a few other things, has also changed how available the market is. So there's that whole thing. Like, would more people want their share of if there's music going on, or if there's a clip being used or such, and so that has changed how people view entertainment, and is it viable, and so on. And it's just so it's frustrating, because I think that detracted a whole lot from where Twitch could be if they were allowed to just be an entertainment platform. Like a live streaming platform, not have to worry about let's turn a revenue, let's turn a profit. It's just there as a tool to further their services. Like I see it kind of as when I was working in IT in Oslo, where operations, like the day they started turning around and saying, yeah, operations, you need to start earning a profit, and we're like, no. Operations is your daily thing. That is just maintaining everything. Like, you are there to just keep things going, make sure that your customers are happy, that they get the service they're looking for. You are not there to upsell. You are not there to create a new product. That is not daily operations, right? And I kind of see Twitch that same way. They are there to break even. And the way that they can do that is if you have ads that are displayed in a good way, or potentially leaning into more like how YouTube have it, where on VODs you can have ads. You can allow for ad breaks. You can allow for insertion of longer ads, even, all depending on the content creators' needs and wants. Even run a little banner ad before a clip, or a little, Netflix logo or whatever right after a clip. Ad revenue, and you're keeping eyes on the product, you're keeping eyes on the ads. I really think that is where Twitch should have gone, but I think they got a few wrenches thrown into their works with some of the bigger changes that happen with both copyright and many other things. And some of the ways that Amazon have kind of pressured them to start, like forcing them to do revenue, has also forced them to kick out a lot of senior staff, where a lot of changes were happening, trying to build new product and so on, and then suddenly you lose a lot of that experience that could go on and kind of continue that ball rolling. So so there's a few of those things that I think have hit Twitch, but we're like, I'll take every last bit of positive news that I can for Twitch, and this new ad placement thing that they're doing is positive. Please keep that up. Please give us more of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then suddenly, without knowing, know your role. You too will know your role on the internet. And the only real segment that we have here today, like, we were probably going to talk a bit more about Dune later on in another episode at some point, but yeah, Where is Conquest and Cataclysm? It's on YouTube. It's not edited, and I'm kicking myself because I forgot to change something in some recordings, meaning that the editing work is taking a whole lot longer to get through, because it has to do with audio balancing. Because in some of the recordings, I am very loud and very close to the microphone, and the others are very far away, and I need to boost them. So finding that balance is hard. And I'm so sorry. I really feel bad. It's just, it takes time to do those edits, and yeah, I'm not getting paid to do this, sadly. But know that we are probably going to see more of that in the future. I had hopes of being able to do some publishing of those while I go to Germany, but not sure about that. Probably not going to be any recordings of that while I'm in Germany either, because I don't have everything set up ready for that. And yeah, the only added part to Know Your Role is that party system in June works well for it, or in-game VOD, or in-game VoIP is the word. Speaking of, we should probably look at Dinkum for that too, because it also has proximity.
Yeah, nice.
So yeah, we will probably have a segment going up about both Dune and other things at some point in the near future.
Yep.
Anything you want to add?
I just want to say that with the Conquest and Cataclysm, hopefully people will be patient with us on that, because we do obviously care about putting out a good quality product for you all. And it's not as straightforward. You know, we were doing some stuff as live stream. We've talked about that. That didn't really work out the way we wanted it to. So we're upping the quality of production, and some of that is also involving lessons as we go along, and adjustments having to be made. So bear with us. We'll get there. Hopefully it'll go out. It'll be, you know, fun for everybody. And if we're lucky, it's popular, and that in turn could turn into for example, some kind of sponsorship for it, where we might be able to pay Tiger to do editing and sound balancing, and any of us to sit down and kind of review the edits and do post-production stuff. So, you know, that's all a pipe dream down the line somewhere, but hopefully we'll be able to at least get the good entertainment out for you. You can trust me when I say that we've had amazingly fun sessions. So the content itself is comedy gold, or adventuring gold.
Right. And now, as is, just so that's clear, episode 10 sits at 2 hours and 16 minutes. Episode 11 sits at 1 hour and 42 minutes. Episode 12 sits at 1:16. Episode 13 sits at 1 hour and 4 minutes. And then episode 14 sits at 1 hour and 27 minutes. And they're jam-packed with content. And so yeah, and that's through what, 3 recording sessions?
I think so.
Yeah. So we're hoping to do more, and I just got kind of, my heart sank when I noticed the discrepancy in the audio, and knowing just how much I'll need to balance that is yeah, it's tough. I mean, maybe I'll be able to plunk it into DaVinci and see if I can find some sort of AI plugin to help with that. I don't know. I'll just have to shop around and look.
Yeah.
But know that we are working on it. Like Robo said, we want high quality on it. They are technically available if people are really desperate. But I'll have to ask. Like, we'll have to ask the others if they're okay with showing them. If people really want them. But we're not going to whip that horse anywhere, because we've hipped that quite enough. We're also carrying on a bit in the recording, so you know there's that part. We have a few things to cover towards the end.
Yep.
And community contributions is what we call questions and comments from our community. And the first up is Patreon supporter Maringana, aka Mari Bean, aka my girlfriend. I'm not biased at all. She says, question: favorite summer drinks? How do you keep cool during the hot days? And I think for me, it's either going to be just like an iced tea, like loads, and I mean loads of ice. The emphasis on ice there, or cold steep tea with like as in it's mostly just water, but with added flavor and plenty of ice. That is my go-to. Or there's also a really good. Last time I was in Germany, we went to a sushi restaurant near Mari, and they had a really good lemon yuzu cocktail thing. Oh, that was so good in the heat. So yeah, something like it has to be fresh, it has to be minty, it has to be something like that for me. How about you?
I have gone really like simple of late, and I'm really enjoying it and feeling like I'm getting benefits from it. Of just having water with lemon, just lemon juice or some lemon put in, and just keeping it really, really simple. The other thing I will do, especially if I'm feeling dehydrated and low energy, but like it's too hot to eat or whatever, I just don't have an appetite, is some water, mostly cold water, but then a little bit of boiled like water to make a lukewarm kind of mix, and then a little bit of salt and some kind of natural sugary like product, nothing that's highly processed or whatever, like as close to raw or whatever as possible and healthy, and just that if you get the right mix of salt and some sugar for energy and then just some lukewarm water, it's really good. Goes straight into your system, keeps you on that level, and obviously super cheap as well, and not healthy within reason, because you're not putting too much in there, and you need to have some salt if you're drinking a lot of fluids, a lot of hydration going on, because you'll flush it out of your system quicker than usual, and your body won't be able to then like properly absorb. So that's one of my go-to ones there that I got from a young age when I would have bouts of like sickness or whatever in the summer. That's what I would get from my mother, who was a nurse. So simple things that stick with you.
Did we just get
for
Grumbles
life.
Lore?
Yeah, we got Grumbles lore.
We got Grumbles Lore. Oh my god.
Yeah.
But I've also worked in a bar at some point, and one of the older bartenders, when it was really hot, he took a big pitcher, added loads of ice, and then he took mint leaves, some cucumber, and a lemon, and he gave those a light distressing. You either bang them between your palms a bit, or just carefully squeeze them so that you distress some of the cells in it, so they release juices and so on. Especially good for the mint and the cucumber. Those two as a refresher, and then you add the citrus to help you it helps your brain when it's warm. And it can also help take off some of those bitternesses that can be in water when it just stands around for a bit. And then that was it. It sometimes also added salt, like you said, because that, like the sugar from the cucumber would be enough to kind of help keep that going, and it was just so refreshing. And I've seen so many of these on TikTok lately, where someone took 5 cucumbers and they took the peel of half of them, And then they just sliced them up, ran them through a processor so that it got like it almost turned into a cucumber smoothie. Added some water, added some ice, and tiny bit of sugar through honey, I think it was. And bam, Bob's your uncle. Yep. And that looked amazing. Like that. Oh, I think I'm gonna need to try to do something like that this summer. Yeah.
Yep.
So, Mari, I hope you're ready to buy all the cucumbers. But that's not the only community contribution we have. We have a little victory or something to be grateful for from UrbanHangman. He says, my 2 longest running friends have asked me to start a D&D campaign for them. They're brand new to D&D with 0 experience of the game, so them asking was a huge shock and also a great honor at the same time. That is heckin' cool. I celebrate that. That is actually
that's
really
awesome.
Cool. And what an honor to be allowed to take people in on their first journey through an RPG like that.
Yeah,
that's always fun. I got to do that with Dante, and he still enjoys that. So, and I sometimes get D&D stuff from him on TikTok after that, and he had no idea first time around, but now I get stuff from him. So, Urban, treat them nicely, and you will have party members forever. But I have no doubts that Urban will make a good adventure for them, because he's a good bean like that. He does good stuff. We're just zooming through these. But thank you for zooming to our patrons. Mari, Finn, Roboto, Tilted, and Lima. Thank you for keeping us going like this. And like it's not the end of the world with the amount of money, but we are also super grateful for those that pledge, even though it's not a huge amount. It can mean a lot to some, especially for people like Lima, who's a student and yeah, not the biggest wallet at the moment. Please go buy Lima stuff, by the way. He's cool. He makes really good stuff, and I'm I'm not just saying this because he's a friend of ours. Genuinely, the stuff he makes, there's a reason why Burke still has his hat, why Cole still has the stuff that that Lima's made for him. I have a wallet for life with the wallet he made me. This is genuinely good stuff. He really knows. So go buy stuff from Lima, damn it.
Yeah.
But thank you to our patrons for doing that. Yes, you do. Do you have anything from Lima?
I don't yet, but every time I think to do it, I should go and have a look.
When's your birthday again? You don't have to answer that. I know when your birthday is.
I've forgotten.
It's in my calendar now, Grumbles.
God dang it. Anyway, let's move on to things to smile about instead of things for me to grumble about.
Yes, indeed. I want to start with something that made me giggle.
Okay.
Because I was sitting there watching you on Play Dune on Twitch, Grumbles the Dwarf, Dune Awakening, and so on. And then I scrolled down on Twitch and I saw Grumbul play Dune Awakening. I was like, hold on. What is this? And he's another British fellow that also has an avatar that looks to be some sort of dwarf gnome fellow with a big mustache and a bit of a beard. And it just made me giggle because of, it's now Grumbul the Dwarf. I don't know if he's the dwarf. He just calls himself Grumbul. But the fact that both of you were sitting there streaming Dune and you have so similar names, that was just... All right. I'm okay with this. It made me giggle.
Yeah, I've not met them yet, but I've seen their name pop up a few times, and I've had a few people in the community comment being like, I thought I was watching you. Not as in like the same content, but just from the name and clicking on it in a lurk or something and be like, oh, I was lurking on the wrong channel.
It's your alternate account. Imagine if they were on the same server as you.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing is, a while back I did look into the possibility of changing my name to Grumbles rather than Grumbles the Dwarf. And then now, since I run into that channel, I'm kind of glad that name wasn't available, because I would imagine how many people would be. We would probably end up getting in contact with each other, be like, "Oh, we had one of yours over here the other day, very confused," and vice versa.
Exchanging mail.
Yeah, that'd be quite funny. Yeah.
Oh, excellent. Right. Tell me one of yours, because I have another one too.
Yeah. So, let's go with this one. So I was called out by a fellow content creator recently. This guy by the name of Statsblog pinged me a DM because I had been meaning to for ages. I'm trying to get better on this on Steam, but I often, it pops up and says, "You've played so many hours in this game. Do you want to review?" But it does it from so early on. I'm like, "No, I've played 10 hours. Leave me alone. I haven't worked out, what I want to say in a review yet or whatever." So, but I've recently been trying to catch up and go through a few, and I'd seen that I hadn't done a review for Enshrouded, and they'd had all that. We've been having so much fun in the co-op, so I thought, you know what, it's about time. So without looking at hours or whatever, I just knew I'd played a lot of it. So I clicked, I'll write a review, and it takes you to another screen in Steam, and you start writing your review. So I went through all of that, posted my review, and thought nothing more of it until I got a DM from Statsblog saying, "You did this on purpose." And I was like, "What?" And then a picture popped up, and it says, "On May 22nd, Ivan Ivanova reviewed this game, recommended 169.9 hours played at review time, Enshrouded." And then so he just sent me a little snippet of that screen on Steam, and I was like, okay. And as I said to him in reply, I honestly don't recall if I did that on purpose, but heck yeah. That made me smile, so well done, Stats.
It's good. We considered making this a clickbait title, though. I want to point that out.
Yeah.
It would have been good. But speaking of friends that you game with, I saw a wonderful TikTok that called me out something fierce. And I shared it with Mari, and she was like, "Are you calling me out?" And it made me giggle, because the clip was of someone playing Minecraft with their friends, and they were sitting there organizing stuff in chests, and then they were like, "Right, I've just had a moment where I realize that I need to be better at communicating how things work in my head for organization of these chests." And they obviously had their whole neurodivergent moment of rocks go together with because and their own reason, like most of us will do. I know I do that, but I just felt that in my soul. But they then went on to say, "Yeah, I've been sitting here being annoyed at where people are putting things, but I also realized that I haven't communicated my idea and thought. So I'm just going to organize this and put labels on it so that we don't have to spend the next few sessions doing the same thing over and over and over." And then there was a lot of giggles in the background of the clip of people kind of realizing, no, we do that. And the fact that Mario was like, "Hey, are you calling me out?" And I was like, no, I'm calling me out. It gave me a good giggle.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah. Can relate to it as well. Yeah.
And yours, you have one last one.
Yeah, and so to wrap up, and I kept this one because it's such a silly little real life one. I ordered pizza a couple of 3 weeks back or whatever, and and I was thinking, like, normally they're pretty good. It doesn't take too long. If they're busy, they usually tell you, like, when you're ordering, like, it might be a bit late or whatever. And I was like, it's been a hot minute. I'm just going to pop my head out the window and have a look. So I went over. I just happened to look out the window, and then I saw a car, and I was like, that looks a bit like one of their delivery cars. That's funny. And then I looked, and I saw, and in the little cul-de-sac where the few, like, rented, like, houses and apartments and things are where I am, there was a guy wandering around looking at a piece of paper and talking on his mobile phone about, but you said it was number 4, and I could hear them, like, obviously in German, like, just saying on the mobile phone, but you said number 4. There isn't, number 4 doesn't It's not that kind of house. There aren't like lots of buttons to press for different names and that like that. And then so I don't know what came over me. I think it was just hunger. And I just called out, I was like, in German, like, hey, Pizzaman. And the guy just suddenly swiveled around immediately. And I was just waved. I was like, over here. And he's like, oh, okay. Like that came along. And so, and then the rest went down like normal. So I just thought then he came up and he was like, oh, I'm really sorry. And he showed me the piece of paper. Like, she wrote down number 4. And I was like, no, okay, don't worry about it. It's perfectly fine. Now give me the pizza. I'm bloody starving. And, it was funny. So he hadn't been there that long because it was all still like warm and everything. But it was just kind of funny like that. Almost to the point, like in a comical cartoon, it would have been me almost throwing myself out of the window. Like, because I was like, well, what do I do in this circumstance? And I was thinking like social etiquette. And I was like, no, I'm just hungry. Hey, Pizzaman. And then we just instantly swiveled round in the middle of the road. It was so funny. So there you go. I wanted to end on like a crazy comical real life moment.
Oh, it's so fun when you have those, and they happen from time to time, but it's beautiful. It truly is. So yeah, no, it's all good. It's all good when those happen. And if you have some of those moments, feel free to share them with us. We love making people smile, and if you want to be part of that journey, you can. And that's why we're here. And yeah, I think that's just where we're gonna end it for today. Those were good ones. They were good smiles, I feel.
Yep.
And without further ado, I've been the Tiger, and it's goodbye from me. He's been the Grumbles, and it's goodbye from Grumbles.
Good vibes, guys.
Cool. I catch you guys in the next